Hey everyone! Today I'm doing something a little different, reviewing two movies at once. First up is Transformers 1. Now, if you're like me, you'll probably agree that the Transformers series has been quite the mixed bag, especially since the Michael Bay era. Don't get me wrong, the animated shows are fantastic. If you haven't seen them, I highly recommend giving them a watch. But when it comes to the live-action films, hit or miss, to say the least. The only one that came close to being genuinely good was Bumblebee. And even though I had some praise for Rise of the Beasts at the time, I've cooled on it. It suffers from the same issues that plagued the Bay films: too much focus on the human characters, not enough on the robots. Plus, Optimus still feels like a bit of a psychotic warmonger, and don't get me started on some of those offensive jokes. So when I heard about Transformers 1, I wasn't exactly hyped. But then I learned that it was an animated film, and finally a story focused on the robots with zero human distractions. That got me curious. And honestly, this movie is surprisingly great. Yep, I'm just as shocked as you are. This film really captured the spirit of the 80s Transformers cartoon, which it takes a lot of inspiration from. It dives deep into the characters, giving them room to breathe and develop. Unlike the previous movies, which were mostly remembered for their explosive battles and visuals, Transformers 1 actually offers the kind of character development we haven't seen in the series for quite a while. You get invested in these robots beyond their combat abilities, which is a significant improvement over past installments. Visuals and battles. Let's talk about the visuals because they're gorgeous. That might not sound too surprising, given that almost every animated movie these days is a visual treat. But this might be the most vibrant and alive that Cybertron has ever felt on screen. The level of detail in the world building is impressive. Think of the 2005 Robots movie from Bluesky, but more colorful, more dynamic, and well, more Transformers. It's like the planet itself is breathing, which is something that many of the previous films failed to capture. The battle scenes are also on point, with choreography that feels well thought out and, at times, pretty brutal. Some of these robot deaths, if you swap them for human characters, you'd probably be crossing into R-rated territory. The action manages to balance spectacle with real emotional stakes, which makes the fights not only visually engaging but also meaningful in terms of story. It's been a long time since we've seen such a seamless integration of storytelling and combat in this franchise, and it's definitely a highlight. Voice cast. The voice acting is another highlight. Chris Hemsworth does a decent job channeling Peter Cullen's Optimus Prime. There are a few moments where his performance feels a bit off, but he's playing a younger version of Optimus, so it makes sense. His journey in this film is pretty predictable. He dies in the final battle, only to be resurrected, but it's still handled in an exciting way. At least he doesn't just recycle his Thor voice, so points for that. Surprisingly though, it's Megatron who steals the show in terms of character development. The film explores his relationship with Optimus, how they start as brothers in arms before their ideals diverge and Megatron falls into tyranny. It's a rare arc in animated films, seeing a hero turn into a villain, and it's handled beautifully here. It reminded me of Final Fantasy VI Sephiroth, and it adds depth to the iconic rivalry between Megatron and Optimus. In a lot of the previous movies, Megatron felt like a one-dimensional antagonist, but here you understand his motivations more clearly, which makes his downfall even more tragic. Bumblebee cameos. And then there's Bumblebee. Played by Keegan-Michael Key, he's hilarious and finally he can talk. No more radio communication, and it's a refreshing change. Bumblebee's wit and charm really shine through, and while he's a little annoying at times, there's a reason behind it. The film plays with his character in a way that feels fresh, even after all these years of him being a fan favorite. We also get some fun cameos from characters like RC, Jazz, and Soundwave. Steve Buscemi's performance as Starscream is particularly memorable. He brings this perfect slimy quality to the role, which I wasn't expecting but really enjoyed. Buscemi's voice adds a layer of treachery that fits Starscream's character perfectly. The film even gives us a little explanation about why Starscream has his signature high-pitched voice, and it's a clever touch that adds depth to the lore. Critiques. If I had to nitpick, I would say the film could have spent a little more time on the other characters. We're following a small group rather than a full ensemble, and I think it would have been nice to see more future Autobots and Decepticons. I was left wanting more from characters like RC and Jazz, who make brief but impactful appearances. Also, there's a twist villain reveal that happens a bit earlier than expected, but it didn't bother me too much. It just felt like they could have built more suspense around it. The pacing in some parts also drags a little. While the film's focus on character development is welcome, there are moments where the story slows down too much, especially when it comes to the exposition-heavy sequences. It's a minor issue, but one that could have been tightened for better overall flow. Overall, Transformers 1 feels like it was made for die-hard Transformers fans, even more so than Rise of the Beasts. I do worry about how well it'll perform at the box office though. A lot of people are burned out on this franchise, and they might not give this one a fair chance. But for what it is, this movie is a fantastic introduction to the series for newcomers. Is it the best Transformers film? Hard to say. The 1986 movie was far more daring in its choices, but Transformers 1 offers a fresh start, and I had a blast watching it. Now let's switch gears and talk about The Wild Robot. This film, which came out around the same time as Transformers 1, is a real gem. It explores the familiar theme of robots gaining sentience and learning the value of life, a tale as old as time. Think Short Circuit, Wall-E, and The Iron Giant. Yet somehow, this concept never gets old. It's one of those timeless ideas that filmmakers always seem to find new ways to explore, and The Wild Robot is a perfect example of that. A heartwarming tale. DreamWorks really outdid themselves with this one. It's a heartwarming story of motherhood, wrapped in a visually stunning package. Every scene looks like a painting, from the lush landscapes to the detailed character designs. There's definitely a Studio Ghibli influence here, especially in the design of Roz, the titular robot, who gives off major castle in the sky vibes. The level of artistry in the animation is truly breathtaking, and it stands out as one of the most beautiful animated films of the year. Roz's journey. Roz is a unique protagonist, a robot washed ashore on a forest island who learns to communicate with the local wildlife. Over time, she evolves from a cold, emotionless machine into a caring figure, developing genuine relationships with the animals around her. The way her voice subtly changes as she becomes more human was a brilliant touch. It's a subtle but powerful transformation that really pulls you into her journey. You can't help but root for her as she goes from an outsider to a beloved member of the island's community. Supporting cast. Pedro Pascal, as the Sly Fox Fink, delivers a standout performance. Pascal has been killing it in every role he takes on, and this is no exception. Fink starts off as a predator but grows into a character who learns the importance of caring for others, and it's great to watch his arc unfold. His character brings a lot of humor and heart to the story, and Pascal's performance helps elevate what could have been a simple side character into someone truly memorable. Mark Hamill also shines as the Bear Thorn, and I honestly wanted more of him. He's wholesome and brings so much heart to the film. Hamill's voice work continues to impress, showing his versatility as an actor, and I couldn't help but wish we got more screen time with his character. A few criticisms. My only real complaint is the final battle. The film doesn't really need a villain, and the climax, while well acted, feels like the weakest part of the story. I would have preferred a more natural disaster like a forest fire to serve as the final conflict. But even with this minor gripe, the ending is still satisfying and leaves room for a possible sequel. I do think it was a missed opportunity not to let the emotional stakes carry the final act without resorting to a villain showdown. Final thoughts. Overall, The Wild Robot is a must-watch for DreamWorks fans, especially since it's their last film fully animated in-house. While it might not top the legacy of films like The Prince of Egypt or Kung Fu Panda, it's a beautiful and heartwarming story that I highly recommend. It's one of those films that, while it may not be as high-octane as some other DreamWorks entries, resonates on an emotional level that's rare in animated films today. And that's it for today's double feature. If you enjoyed this review, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more movie talk. See you next time.